Thank you for no worries. I heard there were some issues. I'm hiding this. Did you get my presentation? No, but it's känns bättre. Långt här. Nu skrapar det. Vi provar att gå hit. Prata lite här. Hörs bra här. Nej, det skorrar. Skorrar lite. Men nu hördes det mycket bättre. Nej, nu hördes det inte. Konstiga. Hördes det bättre? För att jag har den här. Jag provar så här. Vi söker mig här. Det står här. Hallå, morning.
Säg någonting nu då.
Så skorrar det också lite grann.
Ja. Så vi behöver byta till den andra.
Vi byter till den. Vi måste byta.
Läser den innan det. Hörs det någonting i micken nu alls? Ja. Prova en handling. Ja, men det ska ju vara så här. Något teknik måste det vara. Det är någonting.
Spännande med strömsävonor. Snart är hela lokalen helt full. Fantastiskt. Superkul på morgon så snabbt. Så att ja, får vi bara en mick att funka så vi, ja, men vi kör på handling. Även jag gillar liksom det någonstans som kan dansa lite på scenen. Men I did that in the HPC seminar. I danced. You was there? Yeah. I wonder if we shall start maybe. Shall we start? Yeah. Sure. Okay, good morning, everyone. Hello, welcome to Luleå. It's so great to see you all and to hear that you are all talking and telling each other super great stories. And if you want to know more about Luleå Norrbotten, here you have 100 true facts. And you can also, where are you? Please stand up. If you want to have more in the back of, you can have more of these to know more facts, because I hope that you also will see the midnight sun in the evening and it will not be cloudy. So super great to have you all here in Luleå, my hometown. And my name is Jeanette Nilsson. I work at RISE as an AI ecosystem expert, sometimes ecosystem driver, but to connect the ecosystem in Sweden and Europe with the researchers from RISE in AI. And I'm also part of the BDVA board and part of the organization of this conference. So I'm so super happy to welcome you all here. And now we will kick off this conference with some welcoming speeches. And the first one is our minister, Erik Slottner. We met him in Gothenburg when he promised to be here, but he couldn't. He promised to make a speech, and he has. So they sent this to us, and now we shall see how this technology will work. Great, I hope. It was a conference about the Swedish presidency had about AI, and it was 136 people. So I'm quite proud that we in Luleå are 220 people. Yes.
And next year, Luleå will have 500 people.
500 people, yes, definitely.
That's the target.
And the interesting thing is also because we have two other international conferences in Luleå these 2 days. So it was hard for some people to get hotel rooms. Now we can listen to Erik. But we don't have any sound. Erik is the Minister of Sweden in digitalization and public affairs. So he has the responsibility to see that we really get the benefits of this new technology. And I've met him a couple of times, and he is really interested in actually doing things, making a change. And one of the biggest things is to make a change to the public sector, because the public sector is something that we all meet in our lives always.
Dear guests, and to our foreign guests, I would like to say welcome to Sweden. I am glad to wish all participants of Data Week a warm welcome to beautiful Luleå. Indeed, Luleå is at the center of Sweden's and Europe's green and digital transition, with massive businesses and public investments in batteries, green steel, and more. But Luleå is since long also a key player in creating value for society in data from space. This satellite data is used in applications such as intelligent transport systems and smart societies, forestry and agriculture. Soon we are in the middle of the digital decade. I hope that Data Week can contribute to the aim of Europe's digital decade, meaning that all levels of society and individuals should benefit from sometimes unpredictable digital transformation that we see right now. In AI, data, high performance and quantum computing and ultra-speed connectivity. Sweden can be a digital frontrunner thanks to innovative companies and a competitive industry that see the advantages of digital innovation. I believe one explanation to this success is Sweden's ability to cooperate and a sense of trust. A recent concrete example of this cooperation is advanced digitalization, a private partnership for innovation and technology initiated by Ericsson, Saab and ABB. I am pleased to say that government both endorses and financially supports this program. So thank you and I wish you a great Data Week.
Thank you, Eric. So great to have this warm welcome from the minister. And last week we had a lot of people from the United States over here. So next speaker is the mayor of Luleå. Please, Carina. A warm applause when you come to the stage. A long round.
Warm welcome to Luleå. It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's a pleasure to again speak English in my home city and be able to welcome a group of internationals coming here to see what is going on and have a conference on what you are interested in just here. I'm not surprised you are here, because Luleå is a city of 80,000 inhabitants. The most normal working title in Luleå, do you know what that is? It's data developer. So the most common job to have here is like working in the IT sector and making developments. Many of them with their education out of our university in innovative, creative businesses here, but also in state agencies who have their development here in Luleå. So we are a city with a very, very strong hub of IT and data. That was also seen 10 years ago when Facebook, now Meta, chose to open their first data center outside of the US here in Luleå. Why did they come here? For a number of reasons, actually. One of them was the knowledge we have there, the people who knew how to work with data. One of the other was the electricity, the green fossil fuel free electricity that we have here. And also, as you heard the minister said, Sweden is a very digital country. We're used to having electricity to everything, and we're actually used to be digital in all measures. I just came home from Canada and realized that what I'm used to doing in my phone, that's not what everyone in Canada uses their phone for. I'm basically known as not using any money or anything like you can see in your hand. It's all digital, and that's actually how we live here. And many of the companies who develop these things are here in our city. But right now, we are going through another development stage in Luleå. Because what is going on in this part of the world is that heavy, dirty fossil industries are leaving fossil fuels and going into something else. We all know that there is a climate change going on and we need to do more to stop it. And for long, we thought that there was only like your individual choices of what you buy, how you drive your car, or how you transport yourself that could change this. Right now, the change has come to the industries. Because every one of you have chosen to buy something a little bit better, the industries has to start changing their production. And that is what's going on right now in the world. And we are, again, at the center of this transition. And it's because of the same things that got Facebook here. We are a city in the region of knowledge in industries. We've had industries for generations. We used to say that we're a steel city here. We have a steel mill and we've had that for generations. But also we are a city with renewable, 100% renewable energy in our systems. And when you want to leave fossil fuels, you need something else. And mostly you need electricity then. And to be worth it, you need the electricity out of renewable sources. If you're using oil or coal to make the electricity, it's not worth it. And here you have the renewable energy. And that means that these companies want to make their investments here. And they also, not many companies can go directly into electricity. They need to go to another gas, and then they need hydrogen. And to make hydrogen, then you need a lot of renewable energy and water. And well, we have it both. So right now, companies are coming from all over the world to make their transition or to look at the transition. The hybrid project here in Luleå is a front runner in showing the world that it's possible to make steel without fossil fuels, without coal. But right now we see this change in many different companies because it's not only the steel. It's the batteries, especially down in Skellefteå, a few miles south of here. It's also the mining industry, but we also meet other companies like the Spanish group of BDVA, who's going to make fertilizer here. Also then leaving their fossil fuels and going into hydrogen out of clean electricity. So today we're not only a center of IT and the developers, we are also continuing to be a steel city and the industry city. And 2 weeks ago, in the end of May, I actually had the Trade and Technology Council here. Ever heard of that? Neither had I. But since 5 years ago, the European, and 3 years ago, the European Union, the European Commission, and the United States decided they need a council to work with the development issues together. And they need to work with trade and technology, because that will be important that we have the same standards and the same rules when we're working with trade and technology. And twice a year they have their meetings, and for this 4th meeting they ever held, they chose to be in Luleå. So I had the pleasure to welcome State Secretary Blinken here 2 weeks ago, Gina Tremondo, also European Commission's Vice President, Margrethe Vestager and Dombrovski. So they were here, and they chose to be here because this is the center of development. And one of the themes on their conference and what they were negotiating a trade. I don't think they finished that actually, but they were talking about IE. And they were talking about the risks, the technology and taxonomy, about how to work together with the IE to make sure it's safe, that it's good for people and the communities where we use it, and that we make sure that we do not stop development, but that we make it in a way that's good for the societies and the people. So I'm not surprised to see you here, but I'm very, very happy to see you here. We are always happy to have guests here, and we know that we are a city with a lot of knowledge in these areas. So I hope you will have a great conference and enjoy our city. You will probably have some time off to be able to walk around the water here, and maybe at 11 or 12 tonight, you'll see the sun coming up here and think it's in the middle of the day. So once again, welcome here, and I hope you have good days. Thank you. Okay, Karina. Actually, we're going to have a midnight swim, 10 o'clock. Yes, and it's an experience because it's freezing cold. And that's always freezing cold in New York. So great, thank you. And now I'm happy because to talk about what's important. And I'm so happy that my manager, who is in charge of the most important division in Red Rice, the Pixel division, she will be here also and tell us a little bit about Rice and what all of the good things that we are doing. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much. And you're really setting the scene here. So swim in the lake, but it will be very cold. I heard someone say, I'm lucky I'm leaving around lunch, right? And you also said that, or I heard that you are a little dancing. All right, my friends. So I will start actually 40,000 years ago, because that was actually the start of the first data storage. Do you know how it was done? Stones, yeah, maybe. It was the cave paintings.
And when we look at the cave paintings today, I don't think that many of us consider that that was actually the big start of the data-driven society. It was also the start of the evolution of the data storage and data handling. Cannot imagine how the world would look like without data and digitalization. And I think we all remember 2020 when COVID hit us. We were all woke up in January by the pandemic. And it was a wake-up call from many perspectives, I should say. But I think we can agree upon one thing, and that is that it accelerated the pace of digitalization a bit. It also showed the importance of meeting and sharing experiences between projects, between research and industry, in order to strengthen the joint development in Europe. And today, I would say that we really realize how much power and potential we gain from using data, sharing data, and create, for example, AI models. I don't think that anyone here have missed all the fuss around AI in the media, and I guess that will be part of the conference here. Today, we actually generate data faster than we produce new hard drives. And a couple of days ago, I read the solution to actually save all information that we can generate and preserve it for future generations may lie in our own genes. Isn't that cool? Or maybe not.
They don't see the camera.
My name is Charlotte, and I work for RISE, as Jeanette mentioned, and we are Sweden's research institute and innovation partner. And through international collaboration with industry, academia, and the public sector, we ensure business competitiveness and contribute to a sustainable society. And we do that through our 3,000 experts in different areas and domains. And we do it with our test beds. And our test beds could be physical or virtual. The most important thing with test beds are that they are really enabling industry, academia, public sector to meet, to innovate, prototype, and to be part of the solution. As Jeanette mentioned, I'm heading the division digital system. Of course, digitalization is then very close to my heart. So one of the expert areas in RISE is digitalization, and we are having cutting-edge research in areas such as AI, cybersecurity, and data center technology. And actually, we are having a really cool test bed here in Luleå, our ICE data center test bed. We also have two other centers, the cybersecurity center and the AI center. And these centers are and should function as the backbone in digitalization and digital transformation. We also work with companies that are in the forefront of development, have a high digital maturity combined with a tradition of seeking sustainable industrial solutions, which is important to achieve green industrial transformation. A conference like this didn't exist 40,000 years ago. But today, I'm so happy that we have this conference here in Luleå, because it is the key for a successful data-driven society. Big Data Value Association is a very important organization for RISE to participate in, but also to contribute with knowledge. BDVA connects both the national and the European perspective on how we can use data and AI in the journey of change that is taking place right now as we speak. To sum up, I'm extremely happy that the Data Week takes place here in the north of Sweden, which is actually the melting pot of innovation in green industrialization. Strategic initiatives are materializing here as we speak, and we from RISE really would like to be where the future is formed. Actually, we have really a large team here.
Number 3.
I'm sure that the Data Week 2023 will be a success, where you all can share knowledge and results, discuss topics of common interest, find synergies, build new collaborations, and identify new challenges and recommendations.
No, person 3.
Thank you all, and let us enjoy the conference and ensure that in the future we look back at this conference and say, oh, that was the event in Luleå 2023, the Data Week, when it all started. So thank you all and enjoy the conference. Oh, great. Thanks. inspiring to see all that perspective. Great, thank you. Now we will continue with the BDVA, the big boss of BDVA. Please. On stage,
Yeah. And yes, a lot of said before, but let's start first of all to say thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'm allowed, Karina, Charlotte, to say first thank you to Jeanette for organizing this event with her team, with Rice University, Charlotte, and for sure with the city of Luleå, Karina, what you said, because it was really impressive. And I can tell you, I'm this year the third time in Sweden. The first time, and now a little bit, I have to put some water into the wine today. The first time was in Göteborg in the HPC event, like I mentioned. I was on a panel, and when I was entering the panel, Jeanette has not singing the song, but plays the song, the Dancing Queen. Next time we have to improve this year. Don't expect that dance with you, maybe it's not so dancing for you. Second time was at the AI conference, and I was really impressed. You have heard Eric before regarding his speech 1.2. He stayed the complete time at the conference and discussing with the participant of the conference. And this, you don't know, coming from Germany, I'm allowed to say this, which is not approaches for people from government on this level. This, to be honest, it was really impressive that he stayed with us the complete time during the conference. Yeah, you can discuss with him everything. It was really very open, and this was really impressive. And now I have to say, I'm very happy to be here in Luleå. You see here, I think it was a picture from yesterday night. You mentioned this before regarding the fun going up or down, or ask me in which state we are during this. But nevertheless, it's light, it's impressive flight. And I have to say, yeah, it's a place to go for data and AI in Europe. You mentioned this with the center, you mentioned this with the energy and so on. Thank you also to mention especially BDVA, because we're seeing from the place, but also from the organization, that's a place to go to discuss. And we'll speak later a little bit with 2-3 slides about why we are thinking from BDVA perspective as it's a place to be. But maybe coming from industry, maybe I'm allowed to say why this is so important what we are doing. You mentioned battery, you mentioned CO2 footprint. Let's start with CO2 footprint. You know, when you're looking in a factory, and you know, in a factory, you're seeing the scope 1 and 2 of CO2 emission, which is maybe 10 to 40% of the total CO2 emission to produce a product. The remaining part, 60 to 90%, is the so-called scope 3, so it's the upstream or the downstream. Meaning, to have really an optimization of the CO2 footprint of along the complete chain, you have to have data. You have to have data spaces, you have to exchange data, you get value out of the data, and you know, to improve at the end, or to reduce, in this case, the CO2. That's one topic. Why is it so important, the data, what we are doing, getting value out of the data. With a complete stack, I think you mentioned this before, from HPC up to AI, is relevant to the second example you mentioned is regarding battery production. And everybody from us is knowing that battery, a lot of material, of rare material is used. That's maybe the bad thing of the battery extraction, but good thing, you can recycle up to 95%, which means that you can really, again, reduce, let's say, some kind of the dependencies. But you can only do this when you know how the battery is produced, how it's used, and for sure, how it is recycled. So meaning, again, the data exchange to get value out of data is from high importance to the business. And you cannot do this alone. And that's the reason why I'm coming back now to the association. And thanks that you mentioned this. And thanks for hosting our event here. Because, you know, we are a really a very good and very important community, because we brought together industry, small, big one, research, other organization, government, to really to address together this topic. As a meaning, when you're asking me, as one of the person, in this case, I'm not supposed, but one of the persons of BDVA is a community, because you can never, nobody can do this alone. No institute, no company, no organization can do this alone. So the main asset for us is exactly what you're seeing here in the room. This is 220 participants today. Yes, good. Very good. Which are taking care of it. And what we are doing here as BDVA is looking to enlarge the community. I will show later a little bit how we are doing this. Impact on the different flavors, positive impact. Also looking, because you mentioned before, somebody mentioned before AI and how we're doing this, also the changes to dynamically adapt what is to be done or what should be not done to keep systematic changes regarding AI and data, let's say, for us, for our benefit, addressable. World-class research, and last but not least, or first topic is, of course, for the sustainability future, which we have to target. That's what, let's say, what we are doing. And by the way, this sentence we collected yesterday during the short board meeting. When you're looking at the storyline of BDVA, how this is happening, we have some kind of journey behind us or in front of us, because still a lot of ongoing. We studied classical public-private partnership, extended this with cooperation regarding AI, data, and robotics. A partner of the joint undertaking for EURHPC, because when you have data, you have to have somehow the capabilities to store and calculate the data, and then they're coming back to the HPC stuff. We have initiatives like transcontinental initiatives, and we are cooperating together. And I think we have after the cooperate and panel with other partners. Again, the community are here in the room, also the partners where we are collaborating with this. And you see some of the partners where we are collaborating in the area of data. Meaning, this is what it's about. And how does this look like? And here, I think you mentioned this with the HPC, you see the quantum, with the HPC, with the semiconductor, you see the thinking about the data infrastructure, the data spaces. That's one side of the coin. The other side to get value out of the data and applications. Verticals topic. And I'm very happy that we will host in the beginning of July for manufacturing event, an international event, steering committee in Brussels to look at. Because only, and now I'm coming back to the industry view, only when you're looking at the complete stack, which we as BDVA are doing. That's the reason why I mentioned this. From the compute storage up to the verticals, with the different topics, is, let's say, somehow why we can be or will be or are so network. So, and sorry not to extend the time to too much. I think I want to again thanks all of you that you make it happen. To the members, bring the expertise, the content, like explained before. The hostings from the iSpaces, from the EUHubs4Data, from the city, from the university, from the RISE Institute, and broadcast to you. And for sure, I have to say it. When you're not a member, you have to get to become a member. Thanks a lot, and have a nice conference.
Thank you, Thomas. And one of the good things about the first things when I was recruited to RISE, I went to Tor and said, we have a cupboard in our office because we are winning so many prizes, because we are doing world-class research. And I know that some of you are coming to the study visit on Thursday. One of the prizes is the iSpaces, because a good thing, we talk about what can we do together in the community. We do projects together. We exchange experience. And one of the best projects is the EUHubs4Data. And now, Daniel, you are in charge of that. So please.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Daniel Saez. I'm the Technology Transfer Director in ITI, which is an iSpace research center in Spain. And I'm also founding member of BDVA and member of the board of directors and coordinating the EUHubs4Data project, which is the role I'm taking now today here. Because I'm welcoming you from this project, EUHubs4Data to Luleå, to the Data Week. Thanks to RISE, to the city, to host the event here. And I'm welcoming you because EUHubs4Data is co-organizer of this event. As this is the last and third year of EUHubs4Data, I wanted to make a bit of history about these mid-year events of BDVA. We're going into the slides. Maybe you remember different events in 2018, for example, in Sofia, with different names, meetup event, for example. In Riga 2019, we had to cancel in 2020 because of the pandemic. We started, we can go to the first slide. We started the Data Week name or brand with the EUHubs4Data in 2021, and we are now in the third year. The first Data Week was online, maybe focused on Porto because we had to cancel the Porto event in 2020. 2022 in Naples, and 2023 here in Luleå. EUHubs4Data boosted the Data Week event, the Data Week brand, and there were a common element in all these events that were the iSpaces. Maybe you all know about the iSpaces, but just a few words about them. They are next slide, please. And they are a concept that was defined from the very beginning from BDVA in 2014 to focus on structures that can provide infrastructures for data segmentation, data innovation, services for data-driven services, and that are very close to the local community, to the local SMEs and public administration, and to the local data. And also they are playing an important role, a key role in different European initiatives like the European EIHs, the AI testing and experimentation facilities, data spaces, and so on. They were working since 2016, but in an isolated way. And then in 2020, EUHubs4Data started. EUHubs4Data started to create a federation, a network of iSpaces to coordinate and to work collaboratively and contributing to the creation of the European common data spaces. We are now 37 iSpaces in the network. We can say now that we are the major EU initiative focused on data-driven experimentation based on cross-border collaboration with a pan-European catalog of data services, data sources, and also courses, and with 42 experiments, real experiments with 42 companies. So I think EUHubs4Data is providing a lot to the community, to the data and AI community. Next slide. The four pillars of EUHubs4Data are those ones. Quality is the first, because all the members of this federation, this network, are iSpaces, have been gone through this evaluation process of labeling of iSpaces from BDVA. They are creating, they have created a federated catalog coming from those iSpaces, so those services are also have quality, and they are reaching the SME ecosystems to deliver those services to those local ecosystem. And there is an horizontal pillar, which is the ethics, which we have worked a lot in the project. We have created an ethics toolkit to assess and also control all the processes that we are doing with data in all the experiments. So this is an important output of the project. And go ahead. And we are contributing to the visibility as well. This is one of the events in the data week, but we also created the data forum, which is in the first part of the year in March, and we are also contributing to the European Big Data Valley Forum, which this year is in October in Valencia. So next step can be in Valencia. Next step, sorry. Just to finish, we have been very active in this data week, in these 3 days. We are participating in a lot of sessions, 4 sessions today, 8 sessions tomorrow, including the general assembly of the project, and also 3 hands-on or courses to the IHs or iSpaces. And also we are having the plenary meeting the 15th. So a lot of things to share. This one. Thank you very much. Enjoy, learn, and share. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to, that was all the welcoming. So now I think we all feel very welcome, I hope. And then we will continue with inspiration. And one of my most inspirational friends we have been not working together, but we have been working kind of together a long time. It's Anne Graf, and you have been working with so many things. So I will just say that with what you're working with now. Now you're working with H2 green steel. Super interesting, and you're going to. We wanted to go there, but you are building it. So you're going to talk a little bit about what it is, and it's kind of sum up a lot of things that the earlier speaker said. So. Please, Anne. That's a really big picture of me. So hi, nice to see so many people here. When I heard Karina speak earlier, it made me think of what Pat Cox said when he was here for the Railroad Forum in Luleå, when we were having dinner at the ICE. He said that periphery is an inescapable fact of geography, but it must never become a state of mind. And I think that really sums up what's going on in this region at the moment. So, H2 green steel. Well, unsurprisingly, our plan is to make green steel, and it's not 40,000 years ago, but it's about 3,000 years ago that we started making steel in Europe, and we've made it pretty much the same way ever since. And like Karina said, Hybrid here in Luleå have proven that this is now possible to do with hydrogen instead of with coal, and thereby reducing the amount of CO2 that we release into the atmosphere. And we think this is hugely important. And what's the gesture I'm making here? The mission of our company, so H2 Green Steel is a company with a very great mission. What we want to do is that we want to find solutions for the most difficult industries to decarbonize. And we're starting with steel. I always think that's a kind of a confident statement to make, that this is where we start, but it's also very, very important, a mission. I'm going to do this. And so the first step for us, and this is going to be, so what Hybrid has done is a pilot test. It's helped us to show that this technology works. So what we're doing now is that we're building a 2.5 million ton green steel production facility in Boulder, which is not far away from here. It takes about half an hour to drive there. And the reason why we're here is because to replace the coal, we need to produce hydrogen. And like Rina mentioned, this hydrogen is produced by a lot of electricity and water. And a lot of electricity is what we have in the north of Sweden. Hydropower is a fantastic source for this. The 700 and something megawatt electrolyzer capacity that we have recently signed an order with ThyssenKrupp on is the biggest electrolyzer order in Europe and will be the biggest electrolyzer capacity that will be installed everywhere in the world by the time we're ready with this. The plan for the facility is, once we're up in full production, we're going to be producing 5 million tons of steel, but the first phase is 2.5 million tons. At the point of phase 2, we will have doubled Sweden's steel production. And that is significant, but we're still not, together with SSAB, we're still not even at 4% of global steel production. So we're not going to solve these challenges globally by just us producing steel. It's very important that everyone else also starts producing steel in a more green way, but we want to show that this is possible to do. And the plan is to start production at the end of 2025, which is very soon. Why is this important? When I started working in data centers, one of the reasons why we were focusing on the green energy for data centers is because emissions from the internet around 2010, I think, surpassed the airline industry, so around 2% of global emission. If you go to the next slide, you will see that steel actually accounts for between 7 and 9% of global emissions. And so, of course, this is hugely, hugely important for all of us. So what we're actually doing in Boden is building 3 factories. We're building a hydrogen factory taking water and electricity from the Luleå River. We're then making direct reduced iron, or iron sponge, as it's called. And then we're making steel. And we're making steel all the way to the finished coil that we will ship out, hopefully, if we may, from the port of Luleå. This is, of course, is a huge undertaking, but it also gives us 3 platforms to both learn how to work on and integrate. And the integration of these platforms is a key part of reducing the CO2 emissions. So the main thing is, of course, using the hydrogen, but the digitalization and the and having all of these processes as one, so they're all warm as it is. So we don't cool down the slabs and heat them up to roll them. We do it all in an integrated process. And those parts are also hugely important when it comes to reducing the CO2. So this this is showing the traditional way of making steel. So the top way is the way that we've made it for 3,000 years or so. And we should also bear in mind that the last time we built a steel plant in Europe was 1969. So this is a huge undertaking also from the point of view of building even a steel plant, let alone a green steel plant. And this is the process that we're working on. So they're slightly different. The pig iron that comes out of the traditional blast furnace has a lot of coal inside it, as that needs to be further reduced. Whereas the green iron that comes out of the DRI plant has virtually no coal, which means that some coal has to be added. So there's a few differences in the process. But at the end, I'm being told at least that there is no difference in the product unless we actually paint it green. So this is where obviously it's incredibly important for our customers to know where their steel is coming from and that they can trust that the steel that is produced in Boden is truly green, which means they will want to come and visit and they will want to understand the factory and see it work. Now, if you're interested, which I assume you are, in how we're working with digital, because digital is really in our blood and we're born digital, I would say, then my colleague Christer is here. So Christer will also be here for the duration of the conference. So if you have questions or thoughts about industry and digital, I suggest you speak to him and not to me, because that's not my topic. Right, next. And we can go to the next one. The reason, so obviously the reason why we're here, we talked about Obviously, power production, but also grid grid takes a long time to create, 8 to 10 years in some parts of Europe. So the available grid, the port in Luleå, obviously the great expertise, rail access, but also I think it's worth mentioning the fact that Boulder municipality have been preparing an industrial site for a project like this. And without them having done all that work before we came here, we would never be able to do this in the time schedule that we have. And the time schedule is obviously very interesting because we're not that far away from 2025 when production starts, which means that we're right now for the second half of this year, our focus is completing the financing for the project. So it's around 5 billion euros. Building a steel plant is very expensive, we learned. One of the major milestones for closing the financing was getting our environmental permits. And we got a permissibility permit on the 1st of July last year, which meant that we could start moving dirt around, as they say, where we have 270 hectares of land. So it's a huge, huge area, and there's a lot of groundworks that needs to be done. We've been doing that for about 11 months now. And on the 1st of June this year, we actually got the full environmental permit, which we're obviously very, very happy about, because it's a very good indication, both of the works that we've done in terms of assessing the impact on the surrounding environment and the community, but also that we managed to do it at record speed in about a year and a half, which is fantastic. So we are working fully on closing the financing and then hoping to start construction for real in the near future. And right now, like I said, we don't go and visit because it's mostly huge trucks that are driving around and they're very big and our cars are very small, so we try and stay clear of them. This is a visionary picture of what the plant probably won't look exactly like this, but this is a nice drawing of what it could look like. This is the substation. For those of us that navigate the Nordics through substations, this is the Svartbyn substation, if anyone's interested. And up here, there's a new substation being built by Vattenfall and Svenska Kraftnät, which will supply the plant. This is the hydrogen plant. It's about 1 by 1 kilometer in size, a little bit smaller than that. And then these towers are the BDVA towers where the iron sponge is made. They are 135 meters high. So they will be quite a landmark. And the process then with the iron sponge being made here, you can downstream, this is where the coils will come out. And this steel part of the factory is about 2 by 1 kilometers. So it's huge. 1.5 million tons of the 2.5 million tons we're producing in the first phase is pre-sold, which is fantastic, of course. And it brings us back to why is it possible to do this right now? Well, it's possible to do this right now because the market wants it, because the customers want this to happen, because our investors want this to happen, and of course, because we know the technology works. So we're obviously very, very pleased about this. And of course, some of our customers can also be found in the investor list, but of course, to get it to the point that we have and to be able to start the groundworks and recruit how many are we? 200 and something people that we have working on the project at the moment. We have obviously already taken in a substantial amount of money at this point. And Varjas, so this is worth noting for the non-Swedes. Varjas is one of the founding partners of Northvolt Battery Factory. So as Harald Nix and Carl-Emil Lagercrantz say, the idea of H2 Green Steel actually came in a board meeting at Northvolt together with the automotive industry, where the conversation was, so now we're making green batteries, what's the next part of the automotive industry's path to reduce CO2? And that's where they decided to focus on steel.
Debt financing, also, so part of the 5 billion euros that we're taking in is equity and the rest is debt. And so obviously this is already well progressed and supported by many leading European financial institutions. And at the end of the day, we are making huge impact locally. 1,500 people will be employed in the operational phase. 2,000 people once we're up in full production of 5 million tons. And we expect just north of 6,000 construction workers to come to this area over the next couple of years. Which means that we are going to create a lot of both direct and indirect jobs, and of course, huge increase in that export value to Sweden. Questions?
Yeah.
Not another question, but you are Anders, so of course you can make the question.
A very nice project, and I wish you all success. I just have a question to the price. Will there be a major price difference between the green steel and the conventional steel?
What do you think? We hope so. No, there will be, yes. There is a green premium. I mean, the demand for the green steel is huge at the moment, but we also see that the customers are, they understand that building a new steel factory and creating a project like this is huge, and it has to be done. And I think both us, the investors, and the customers understand that that steel will have a premium, both because it's more attractive and interesting, but also because we need to enable the transition. And so I think there's two reasons for that. But yes, absolutely, there is a premium for green steel.
It's related. How does CO2 certificate price affect you? Are you happy with where it's going? Because it shrinks the price, of course.
Yes, exactly. No, we think it's very important that things are really sustainable. Like that's the purpose of this, right? We know that there are ways of moving emissions around to make it almost like a creative accounting exercise, and that's I think something that we don't agree with, because we would like it to be truly accounted for, and so yeah, we hope that policy will kind of continue to work in a way of avoiding opportunities for greenwashing. Is that fair comment? Yeah.
Thank you. Was the same in data center. But I know that you have to go to the next, and I'm so super happy that you could be part of this. And next time we will come and visit the plant. Super. Thank you. And one of the things, Anna and me have worked at the same office in Brussels for North Sweden, and we work together in the data center business. And one of the things that we also talk a lot about is the importance of doing things together in Europe, and doing together and together with the Commission. And actually, so that's why I'm so happy that the next speaker will be from the Commission, because legislation, policies, programs, that also inspire innovation. So, Kimmo, please, the floor is yours.
Nice to be in the Data Week again. So I think my last Data Week was Riga 2019. And of course, things have changed, things have evolved a lot. First, I have to tell you my last experience of Luleå. Everybody else is telling what they think of this corner of the world. And it was 3 years ago, that in May 2020, when there was a total lockdown in Europe, and I had members of my family stuck in different parts of Europe. That's a long story, but finally I managed to get them into a car. And we were wondering how to get these people and one dog to Finland when their flights were not operating and there were no ferries. Well, ferries did not take passengers in Baltic Sea, and Finland is a bit isolated. So we managed to get to Germany when we promised that we will not stop in Germany. We would drive through and find a way to get out. And there was a ferry from Rostock to Trelleborg at the very southern tip of Sweden. So that was the only connection that worked at that time. So we arrived there at the very south of Sweden early in the morning, well rested, and okay, if we cannot cross the Baltic now, we have to drive around it. And started towards the trip towards the north. We picked one more passenger in Stockholm who was stuck in Stockholm airport, and then we started driving, and I would thought that Sweden ends pretty much at Stockholm. I was wrong. I was terribly wrong, because then the road just went on and on and on forever. And then at some point arrived in Luleå, and it looked nice with the bridges and with the sunset. And it was already very close to the end. Then there was Kalix and the Haparand, and then it was the Finnish border. And there. So it was possible, and it's just a pity that we didn't have time to stop in Luleå at that time. So just rode through it, and that's it's nice to be back and spend a bit more time here now, and I can say that Luleå has an important place also at along a main strategic evacuation route for us Finns. So a lot of the sessions in this conference here, they are revolving around the concept of data spaces, common European data spaces. So in February 2020, the Commission came up with a communication which outlined the data policy and outlined the concepts of common European data spaces. And now in 3 years, it has developed a lot. We have, for the time being, 11, depends a little bit on how you count, what you count as data space. So 11 data spaces currently taking shape, 7 of which are in the preparatory phase. So they have preparatory project that is tasked to create a blueprint and design for the data space. But then we have 3 or 4, again, how you count them, that are in deployment, that are in operation. And I would specifically mention the health data space. It's not entirely in operation yet, so the patient records don't exist yet, but there is already the cancer images infrastructure and 1 million genomes data infrastructure that are in operation and that can be used already, and you can build applications on that data. The data is available in those infrastructures, and also the language data space, again, which also is building on some older legacy, and that is already in operation. There is also progress in the legislative framework that will have to be in place to govern these data spaces. So it's not enough just to have the technology and the willingness to pool and share data. You also need a legal framework of who can use the data under which conditions. So it all started with the GDPR, which was adopted in 2016 and became operational in 2018. So we have had 5 years now to rehearse how it works, and maybe we are gradually starting to understand how it works and how to implement it. We have the Open Data Directive applicable and now complemented recently also by this implementing act on high-value database which are now in place since the beginning of the year, and that they are defining the categories of public sector data that must be made available through easy interfaces and APIs. And we have the Data Governance Act adopted last year, and which will enter into application in September this year, 24th of September. And there is also a new very important expert group that will start working in September, the European Data Innovation Board. And I mention this because there's currently a call for experts open until the end of June. Because many of the people in this room are potentially very valuable members of that expert group. So I draw your attention to this call for experts to join the Data Innovation Board. It's a very interesting, important body that will shape data governance in Europe, data interoperability in data spaces, standardization. So I recommend that you to consider that. Then the Data Act will complement it all, so how it will set up the principles and rules for using closed data, so data that comes with restrictions of ownership and IPR. We are very close. We are this close to the adoption of the Data Act, and I hope that by the end of June it might be adopted with some goodwill from the co-legislators, the European Parliament and the Council. Then, of course, we should not forget the AI Act, which is also an important part of data governance legislation, so-called data governance for the purpose of developing trustworthy AI systems, fair and trustworthy AI systems. So up to now, we have been facilitating the data spaces mainly through projects, so portfolios of projects. And they are present in this event, so I'm mentioning them for that reason. For example, there's a session on the technological enablers to data markets this afternoon, chaired by Richard Stevens. And it's about this exciting portfolio of 4 projects that are operating, that have been selected last year, that started early this year, that are working on the monetization of data, so that making data tradable assets. Then we have something where there is no session for obvious reasons. But I can tell you that we have selected 5 wonderful projects for the topic of data lifecycle integration. The evaluation was 2 weeks ago, and we are eagerly waiting to send the letters to the lucky winners, and many of them are here. That's a very, very exciting portfolio of projects, because one of the requirements of the call was an essential requirement is to create use cases with involvement of at least 3 common European data spaces. So that project will have to, the proposal already have to make a concrete plan of how they will work with these emerging data spaces. And together, these portfolio of 5 projects will address more or less all these 11 data spaces that we have on the map now. Another portfolio of projects highlights the importance of creating contacts with the real world, so that we understand in what realistic situation and which users the database operate, and to demonstrate them in action and in large scale. And this is where this AI testing and experimentation facilities come into play. We have them in display also this afternoon, And I brought along a colleague, Jan Bückman, from the AI unit of the European Commission, so who really knows everything about these PEPs, as they are called. And more importantly, the session is about the connection between the data spaces and the corresponding PEPs, because these PEPs operate in a particular area like agriculture, but we also have a data space taking shape for agriculture data. And another one is healthcare, where there's a PEP and there's a data space as well. The project approach is not sufficient. We have now come to see the limits of the approach of just supporting projects that work with data spaces, simply because projects don't have this continuity that is now needed to set up and to deploy and operate data spaces. We cannot switch them off after 3 years. They have to be operated continuously. So we have created a new concept for that, actually an idea that comes from the Digital Decade program, because they have so-called multi-country projects. And we realized that there is a new instrument for the multi-country projects that can be used for databases. It's called EDIC, the European Digital Infrastructure Consortium. So it's a legal entity that will operate like an agency that can operate an infrastructure like a database. And we have a session tomorrow morning on those EDICs, what is being planned, where do we stand, and what can be done with the EDICs. And so the EDIC will be novel also in the sense that it is led by member states. So the EU member states are in a crucial position. They lead actually the EDIC. And we need at least 3 member states to set up an EDIC. So first they send an application, and first applications may actually come in very soon, in June already. And we may see the first EDICs adopted by Commission decision by the end of this year, if we're lucky. And then I just wanted to mention at the end that the last point that we are also drafting, actually we started already a while ago, we drafted the work program for Horizon Europe work program for 25, 26, 27. So first we started drafting a strategic program. So like what are the elements? What has changed in this world since we started the program? A lot has changed in this world, and there are new challenges that we have to respond to. So that it's also hopefully it's a sort of inspiration to you to tell us now in these 2 days and maybe in the next months as well, what should be in the next work programs of the Horizon Europe program. And that's it. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak at the beginning of that. I hope to see you also in the sessions later on.
Yeah, thank you. And really, I mean, a lot of us in the room, we have can sit and wait for a really nice letter from the Commission. And then we will continue to, as many of you said, I mean, data is useless if you don't have something to compute on. And the European Union has decided that we will be best, I think, isn't it so? Have the both best supercomputers. We are on a good way. We have started slow, but we are kind of ramping up. So from the EUHubs4Data, the floor is yours now.
Thank you.
We have a full. No, we are.
Thank you, Jeanette, for this opportunity to introduce to everybody who is not yet aware of the EUHubs4Data joint undertaking, our little organization. The European High Performance Computing Joint Undertaking has been created a few years ago to pool resources of the European member states in the area of high performance computing. High performance computing as such is a multidisciplinary domain. So it is the basis for a number of digital technologies, in particular applications covering traditional simulations, data science, and quite recently, we also cover the area of quantum computers and other computing technologies.
Point here. Daniel, point to this direction.
No, it's not about pointing, it's about focus on the slides. Click on the slide.
Did it just work for Ahmed? Special.
I don't think the slides show it actually.
It's not working.
Okay.
But is it working with you?
No.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
Why is it?
Soon dancing.
It's here. So we needed to restart because it's crashed.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So we let it go.
2 years ago, I had the opportunity to be part of the HPC community because I didn't know anything about it. And then I asked my board who was working with, he said, you know, AI is a lot of data and small computers. HPC is a lot of calculations, not so much data. That's it, true.
That is a
No.
very good question. And we are exploring this currently in our.
Oh, no.
So first of all, a few words about the organization as such. So whenever you contact us, for instance, to receive or to apply for grants, to discuss future activities, to participate in any of our activities, this is roughly the team that is behind all of this. We are still a relatively small organization, about 30 members of staff at this point in time, growing perhaps up to 50 members this year and next year, according to our staff establishment plan. And we are based in Luxembourg. The Euro HPC joint undertaking has been created with a specific mission. And with our mission, we are not isolated in the European ecosystem. We are embedded in the wider European strategy on digitalization of our societies. And this has been described, for example, in the Digital Compass that was published by the European Commission some time ago on the European way for the digital decade. It identifies two major directions along which the digitalization of the European societies will be pursued: skills, infrastructure, business and government, and our activities contribute in many ways to these objectives. So about our mission, 3 key elements. First of all, to develop, deploy, and manage a world-leading high-performance computing infrastructure. So as an organization, in the meantime, we own, and I will say a little bit more about this in a few minutes, a very significant amount of HPC resources that we make available free of charge to the user communities in Europe, primarily for open research and innovation, but also to a certain extent in the future, we plan to make this available for some private innovation purposes. Besides the infrastructure, we also operate a very significant research innovation program on innovative supercomputing technologies, on applications, on a competitive European supply chain. And here I would like to point out that on the one hand, we of course identify gaps in the European supply chain that we intend to fill with our research and innovation activities. One example is our microprocessors that are currently, it turned out to be a very important element in many areas of the European economy. But we also need to make sure that we develop the ecosystem in a reasonably balanced way, so that we don't end up with a world-leading microprocessor, but there's possibly no software or applications that may be this. So we invest in all of this, from technology, applications, and skills and users. So for this, we received significant public funding from our stakeholders. Our stakeholders in the organization are, of course, the European Union, represented by the European Commission, but also currently 33 participating states. So these are all the European Union member states, but also countries around it, even beyond Europe, Turkey, Iceland, and others. And our setup is implemented in a way that all our projects are, almost all of our projects are co-funded. So whenever we spend €1 on a project, then one of the countries has to spend, or the countries together have to spend also €1. So it's a co-funding approach. And this is complemented by investments by private capital mobilized among our private partners. And the Big Data Value Association is one of our private partners to support these activities. So in the next few years, we will have spent hopefully about €7 billion to support the high-performance computing ecosystem in Europe, covering all our pillars of activities. We currently have 3 private members, and BDVA is one of them, but we also have as our private members the European Technology Platform, High Performance Computing, as well as the Quantum Industry Consortium. And those members help us to develop our strategic agenda, our work program, our initiatives, where we invest the funding that we receive from the member states. So this is roughly how our official bodies in the organization are organized. The highest decision-making body in the organization is the EUHubs4Data Governing Board, where the representatives of all the member states have a seat. Every country 1 vote, as well as the European Commission. There is the organization as such, with all the staff represented by the executive director, and we have an industrial and scientific advisory board. And this is the group where our private members contribute, where you can influence how all the public funding will be spent. This is the group that develops the multi-annual strategic program that sets out our investment strategy for the entire multi-annual financial framework. So we are just about to complete this process and adopt the final multi-annual strategic program. It needs to be adopted by all the countries. And then we will follow up with the implementation of your proposals and of course all our other clients. So for those of you who may not be aware, so there are 2 members currently in our Research and Innovation Advisory Group from BDVA. This is Jeanette and Maria.
Yeah.
And so we hope, and we very much, I think, benefit from these contributions as we design our work. So more specifically, what have we done in the past and what are we currently doing? First, let me start with infrastructure. I mentioned that we currently operate a significant amount of HPC resources all over Europe. Here you can see it on the map. Those systems on the left side, 8 systems, 3 relatively large systems. We refer to those as pre-exascale systems, HPC systems preparing for the exascale era. 3 of them, 1 in Italy, 1 in Spain, 1 in Finland, and then 5 little bit smaller systems in other countries. Beyond those, we are currently preparing the installation of and the procurement of 5 additional systems. Among those will be the first European exascale supercomputer in Luleå, Jupiter, that we will install in the next 2 years. This will significantly extend the capacity available to European scientists, industry, also the public sector, and we hope this will boost the economy and create many opportunities. Second part of infrastructure. In the Digital Compass, the European Union has set out the ambition to deploy the first supercomputer with a quantum computer accelerator by 2025. This is an initiative, HPC2S, that we are currently funding that will deliver exactly this. This is a project that started already more than a year ago, where we will install 2 quantum computers. We have already procured them. We are just waiting for delivery to 2 European supercomputing centers with existing supercomputing installations, and those 2 systems will be integrated similar to a setup that we see from, for example, graphics processing units in HPC systems in these supercomputers. And this will allow us to develop applications that use both classical HPC resources as well as quantum computers in a high way. So we will make time available free of charge for the European communities to develop first applications. Now, beyond this, we have now selected 6 additional sites to host additional European quantum computers. You can see on the map the 2 systems from the HPC2S project in Paris, but then there are 6 additional quantum computers. We are currently about to conclude the negotiations on hosting agreements with these entities, and will start the procurement of these quantum computers very soon. So in this ambition, we follow a certain number of objectives. Here are some of them. One critical objective is that those quantum computers should be integrated into existing supercomputers. The way as an accelerator works, this is something that makes this initiative somewhat distinct from what is happening in national programs and other regions of the world. And along with those, we, of course, it's our ambition to achieve a certain level of federation in the coming years. So, for instance, a technology agnostic software interface and a number of other elements that you can see here, including standardization. International cooperation, another topic that becomes more and more important. It is also one of the priorities that have been set out for Europe as part of the Digital Compass International Partnership for the Digital Decade. Currently, a number of those have been concluded by the European Commission representing the European Union in this respect. These are India, Korea, Singapore, and Japan. And we started already with our first action in this regard in a collaboration with Japan that we support with a grant of €5 million to exchange researchers to develop applications, support applications, give mutual access to the different systems. Japan has an outstanding HPC infrastructure with Fugaku, a system that has been developed in Japan with a new processor that has been designed specifically for the system, and we will allow this and support collaboration between our scientists and Japanese scientists. Another very important topic that we address in the joint undertaking in the context of high performance computing, energy efficient HPC. So this is not about using green energy or green electricity. It's about using less electricity, which is perhaps even better. And we have identified a number of areas where we have to intervene in order to improve the carbon footprint of our HPC infrastructure. It starts, of course, from the infrastructure and the energy efficient data center. And it was very interesting to see all the work that is happening, like here in RISE yesterday, at the ICE Research Institute in this area. But in our research and innovation program, we of course also go beyond this. We address system architecture, new microprocessors, for instance, that are more energy efficient, the modularization of our system architectures, the system operation as such, resource management, accounting needs to be adapted to allow for more energy efficient computing, algorithms, applications, workflow. And finally, but perhaps one of the most important factors in our ambitions are the users and skills. So we have to create more energy awareness. When our systems are being used, we have to have more skilled users on our systems that avoid the waste of resources. And we have a number of activities planned for our work on 2023, and I'll talk now what follows. I picked 2 or 3 examples just to demonstrate how we address these challenges in our funding program. First of all, next, I'll start from the bottom. I skip the infrastructure part, go to the technology aspect, and here we are developing, for example, a new generation of European processor technology. And we started this already a few years ago in the European Processor Initiative. It's a new processor on the basis of ARM technology that you find in almost all Apple devices, in almost every mobile phone. And we developed an HPC processor on the basis of this technology. This will be followed up by a very significant investment in a new technology, in an open standard, RISC-V. This is an instruction set architecture to design microprocessors. We plan to invest about 135 million this year in from EU funding to support our communities to respond to this challenge. So this is one of our major initiatives in the area of technology. Now, even more energy probably can be saved, even more energy efficiency gains can be achieved by not just an incremental improvement in microprocessor technology, but what matters even more are the algorithms, the applications that run on the systems. And here we have launched an initiative, selected a project for scale that will offer, in the form of a cascaded grant to the communities, support to convert scientific concepts for algorithms into proof of concept implementations. So these will be small projects covering maybe 2 full-time positions for a year of software developers to demonstrate the benefits of an algorithm that exists as a concept. So basically what we are looking here for is for the fast Fourier transform of the exascale era. That means if you think about it, a concept such as the Fourier transform that is known from a very long time, but the implementation actually made it a very, very important algorithm that is used almost everywhere now. Now, with new algorithms, we hope to make significant progress also in our world-leading application ecosystem in Europe. Europe has traditionally been very strong in HPC applications. We support those with a number of funding programs that we refer to as the Centers of Excellence for HPC applications. These are projects that are centered around scientific domains where HPC software is developed. But these are not necessarily scientific projects to carry out fundamental research, but to develop the HPC technology, the HPC applications that are necessary to succeed in world-leading research and innovation. We cover now quite a number of areas. 10 of these centers of excellence are already operational, and we are currently evaluating a few more proposals targeting four specific topics: personal health medicine, human brain research, optimizing energy consumption and performance. Now, coming back to one of our most important European communities, where we see very significant innovation potential, and these are small and medium-sized enterprises. The European Union has set out an ambition to ensure that about 75% of European enterprises have taken up cloud computing services, big data, and artificial intelligence. And we believe that HPC, as the backbone of some of these technologies, can play a very important role. And in order to address this challenge, keeping in mind that 95% of all businesses in Europe are small and medium-sized enterprises, it's a huge potential, it's a huge community, but it's notoriously difficult to reach with large-scale funding programs that we usually manage in the union or by the JU. And for this, we have launched several specific targeted actions. One of them is a pan-European network of European competence centers that provide support very much in the spirit of the Federation of Digital Innovation Hubs, like a European catalog regional offer, and in the same way, these competence centers do pursue a similar approach for high-performance computing and related disciplines. Now, these provide small and medium-sized enterprises with access or help them accessing HPC resources, help them with knowledge and skills. But of course, in order to succeed, these small and medium-sized enterprises need also more than that. So we have identified three elements that are particularly important for their success and for the adoption of digitization as well as HPC. And this is skills, resources, financial support, and talents. And financial support, for this will be addressed by the JU in a separate project that provides cascaded grants to the order of 200,000 euro to these businesses to develop, to solve concrete business problems. So these are not scientific projects. This addresses the solutions of business problems with high-performance computing, and we've launched the European Master Program for HPC. So with this, I thank you for your attention, and I just want to point out there are many ways to participate in these activities, access our computing infrastructure, participate in proposals, call for tenders, or contribute as an expert in evaluation.
Super. And very good environment. Now we're going to go and exercise. We're going to take a photo, and we're going to take it in the city park, which is just outside of the hotel. And now I'm looking at Sina and Anna. Yeah. So we will just go up. Yes. We'll have a photo, and then the reward will be coffee.
And then was here. First the photo, please just
First follow Sina and Anna and me.
Ah, nice video.
Sorry. Yeah, it's one thing. This monitor, there is a video. I think you can just minimize it, not cover the titles on the slides. It's not so easy to find it. Cursor is. I think in the top of the video. Ah, yeah, okay. Full screen. No, I had non-video participants, was the correct one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now the video I can use in my. Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. I will have in my presentation a sound. Will that work or not?
It will work if I send it from my computer, but she has the presentations in her. But which one is yours?
Are you got the new version now?
No, no, no. So changed since news change into SAS.
No, I think this one here is, but this was from yesterday. But it's not me either. Okay, I have no idea.
What's your name?
Marcus Levicki. And not there at all. Right?
Any special speeches?
No. Okay, I need to go to the picture, but I can come back and I'll make a short one and you can direct it down.
Yes.
I think it's
In that way, but you don't know where.
I can use a new one.
What's a new one? And I will take that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have created a link. If you know bit.ly, I can type in the URL. So it's
Yeah, you can.
I can.
Yeah, free hands.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
It. Yeah, so if you download that thing. Right. But if you have it, you will need then this one.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, perfect.
Are you the first one after the break?
Yes. Thank you.
Halloj!
Hej, hur är läget?
Jo, lite sned i nacken och sitta så här.
Du måste få massage sen.
Precis. I want. Ja.
Lär du dig något?
Det är ju lite mycket bara, vad säger man?
Nörderi. De säger det själv.
Ja. Och hur får jag upp bildspelet på andra skärmen nu? Bildspel. Men det ska inte vara här. Det ska...
It's more like I'm a small creature. One laptop with the.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, so how are we?
I haven't tested the sound yet. But
It's next.
Okay, but it's your presentation already here.
Yes.
where you have
Okay.
the clicker.
The newest one.
The clicker is this one, yeah.
Yeah, it's the newest.
But I don't have any more
Oh,
USB
perfect.
I
ports.
just uploaded on his
Ah,
computer.
perfect.
I don't have any more USB ports.
Okay, do you have USB?
USB-C I can use.
Then we actually need to, do you need help? I do have enough people to move. Or you probably were already told that for
So.
I have spoken to Samantha. I know how to send. She was worried about the size. So we thought we could get it bigger. But we had actually we did the room initially based on vote on how many people actually need this session. So for that reason, they got that. Yeah.
So you just need to focus on the slide again, I guess.
Only 10%.
Click on the, no, just click on the slide, somewhere on the slide.
Yeah. So just to give an indication.
Now I have control.
Whatever we put in, yeah, we put in. Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise,
But probably you did not allow to play media, right?
we could use the.
Did you close the?
I think we can keep it from.
Maybe, yeah. If you. No, yeah, no. Download. Yeah. Yes, that's one of the reasons. We see but we can find an answer.
It's Wednesday and Friday the event, so we have Monday and Tuesday plenary meeting part.
Exactly. Yeah, you will try again, maybe not too loud, right? Very good.
And are we sharing? The co-funding
Yeah, yes, exactly. So screen 2 you can share. Yeah. Yes, that's perfect. Great. And I have to click one more time on the slide so that I have yeah, good.
I'm hiding my cursor now.
And you can actually also says you hide the yes.
Marcus, who was it? I think you said, help, better help with these issues, these drugs, possible. Somebody who knows all these parts. She says that she's with the MC somebody said those somebody.
Now we are campaigning.
I only know that they mentioned that
I think yesterday there was we are submitting one we want to resubmit. I don't remember the name, but we are resubmitting one. Excel now, Excel or we had a similar situation with CPS for it was not that you it was not approved, but then there were some negotiation and finally we go there. We are finished. No, but yeah. There is still some communications.
My
You can organize.
Yeah, also, really also. Yeah, definitely.
You should try that one.
I just want to try it again. Like, don't want to give up so quickly. But, okay. Is it on? No, it's not.
So Marcus will start that way change because Anna was saying that it's better that way. The content actually.
Yeah, but he wants to find it.
Okay. Yeah. Don't give up so far.
Yes. I will try again. That's really a new way. So I'm trying again. This is a headset and really it seems to work. Yeah, I can go like that. Now it's over. Yes. It's okay. Good. Let's test. Right. Okay. Yeah. That means I can copy. Apparently. Luckily, yes.
I will go and
Get the feedback.
I know, I understand you cannot speak too much.
That's all. But everyone hears you.
A lot of Asian people
Then my nose, I think the voice is perfect like that. Okay, I will try again like this. Okay.
Timing wise, we are fine, so you don't need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just take the
Where should I stand in order to not be in the way? Cazzo di go.
No. This was one of them. Yep. Okay. Back from the coffee and from the photo shoot. So we're now all forever part of this great experience in the Data Week in Luleå. And that we can show that to everyone that we actually participated, as someone earlier said, looking back and remembering this day, this conference. And now we will continue to, it has been, you can see that me and Marcus, we have kind of matches. So we had a telephone call this morning. Kind of shoes are you going to wear? I'm going to wear this. Okay, yeah. So that's our trick when we have this show together. So we have been talking a lot about AI, and in Luleå we are very proud to have Marcus Lewicki to move to Luleå because he is one of the best in the world in Europe on AI. So now you're going to give a speech, and we work together a lot in different in many areas. So it's going to be interesting for me also to listen. So the floor is yours, Marcus.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. There are a few people from Luleå, like Janet or Michael, who are in this community, but I am not really closely connected to this BDVA. I'm more on the LS side and collaborating in other discussions. But I got to know this community now a bit through the inspirational talks, but also during the coffee break, I heard a lot of German. As you might see from my accent, I am German. But I also heard Greek, and as a matter of fact, my wife is Greek, and she speaks to our kids Greek. So I understand when I say, for example, Irene is illegal. Okay, now I see even more Greek than I thought. So some people from Japan here. And a few other French, I was living in Switzerland for a while in Fribourg, which is on the border between the German and the French speaking side. Yes, it's really nice to get to know you, and I thought maybe you want to get to know me a bit, and I could start with my research. And I first want to start about speaking about my kids, not really about my kids, but do you know what an earworm is? This kind of music. For the last 2 weeks, I have an earworm. I want to share this with you. I only share one part of it. Anyone knows Bartolito?
Bartolito was a rooster on a quiet little farm. When the sun came up, Bartolito crowed like this. No, Bartolito, that's a cow.
This is how we train our kids. They love these songs and they listen and listen, and at some point they know what's a cow, what's a rooster, and the other things. And this is how we train ChatGPT. Quite exactly. On a very high level, ChatGPT gets a lot of videos, a lot of actually just text from these videos, or a lot of language, and gets sometimes the correct and sometimes the incorrect words. It was now the cow, which was not so correct. And it gets benefits when it does the right job. And after a while, it trains and learns. So this is what I'm doing for 20 years in my research in machine learning, trying to get this, what we do with the kids, with our language models. And GPT is only one of these natural language processing models. There are others as well. And there is something more general, creating content, and that is generative AI. And I guess most of you heard about that as well. And that's similar. We give it not just these 20, 30 YouTube videos as I give to my kids, but millions of videos, millions of images, millions of texts, trillions of texts, and they are learning. But they more or less just merely reproduce what they have seen in the past. Creating new content is very difficult. Of course, similar content in a way, or replacing words they can do, but I will show you in a while what they cannot do. Generative AI, really useful, and of course it can be created, right? This we have solved, right? Maybe you know that picture, right? That's one fine arts competition, but generated by an AI. And it can generate very beautiful code, more beautiful code and better code than first year's graduate students. But how about the quality of the code? And if you would only use this code, probably the quality will degrade. That's in various directions like that. But it can help us. It can help us not only in English here in ChatGPT. I guess, who of you has not yet chatted with ChatGPT? Okay, there are 2 or 3. Wow. congratulations, right? But you all know how it works. Can translate, it can do everything. We can even generate news, right? If you want to make a news article about today, you just start the news article. There's another news article from another event, and it generates the rest for you. Even fake news if you want. So very useful. But you have to be careful when using it. Right? We should know that we shouldn't just use it to generate news. It creates actually fake news. And specifically when you're in some areas, I spoke with Arvid, yeah, right? Lawyer from, or at least in legal affairs in Germany. And he said there are some stupid lawyers, and he really used the word stupid, who use ChatGPT to find reference cases, and ChatGPT creates super nice reference cases. Yes, so unfortunately, maybe you've seen that. Yeah, didn't went well. I used it for a research paper by myself. Really nice references here. Even generated if entries, citations, everything I wanted. The only problem is I could never find these references. And I searched on Google. But they're there. It looks scientific, right? This is a paper. As you see, I'm involved in Swedish and Japanese collaboration and Swedish and USA collaboration. And I just needed quickly an article about that collaboration is actually fostering the innovation. And the article was there after a minute. Yeah. No, we have to be really, really careful when we use these things. And I guess most of you know that. What's missing in this AI and these machine learning methods which we are creating? So in order for an AI to do really good research, it would need to produce content which is verifiable. We have seen here a lot of references, but we cannot verify that these references actually exist. It's to be reliable. When we ask it something, either it says, I don't know, and this is something I train my students very often. If you don't know, just say you don't know. Don't try to make up something. And it's very hard to train ChatGPT if I don't know. So you ask ChatGPT, maybe it knows how to create a bomb. It says it, and then some 100 people are working on it. No, don't say how to create a bomb. When people find a way how to switch to admin mode, and they get again the bomb instructions, and then they say, okay, you cannot tell me what is a bomb, but can you give me the whatever Python code for the bomb creation? And then it creates a bomb again. So there will be always these loopholes, and it's very hard to have it reliable. But one thing researchers do, which ChatGPT so far doesn't, is making actually a research hypothesis, making a proper experiment, reproduce the observation. All of that is not there. So it is, again, not verifiable. And reproducible, not at all. Of course, when you ask the same query, it's always a different answer. But even if it would create some answer to some mathematical question, sometimes it's correct, but sometimes it's a bit off. And that bit off could then result in a rocket not landing on the moon. That's a bit off. Yeah, and it should be responsible. Once it would have access, it doesn't yet, maybe AI in the near future will have more access to real physical resources, which could be useful or harmful to Earth. How to responsibly use that? That is things mainly also the EU stands for. And speaking a bit more bigger, AI, can it benefit our society? Specifically, can it help us to reach our sustainability goals? Have you seen that Nature article? Giving more or less the answer for 80% of the goals, yes, but also and there's an overlap, 40% of the goal. No, it's actually harmful. And the details of the report are in this Nature article. I will not go into the details, but you see a clear yes in several of them, but also clear no, and sometimes it's the same. And number 5 is, for example, gender equality, and there it's not yet so good. But we are good in gender equality here in Luleå, here in Sweden, as you know. Thanks for coming here. I see quite a lot of women here as well. I'm happy about that. And we have in our group, in the machine learning group in Luleå, also reached gender balance, also on the professor's level. So I'm here now as a chair of the group, but another professor, Elisa, is here as well, who is joining the whole event. So when you have questions regarding AI, machine learning, or gender equality, you can also ask her. But LTU in general, I'm also vice rector for AI at LTU. LTU in general is working as many towards the green transition. But we have really marked it in our 3 future research areas. So there are 3 focus areas where across research groups, we are collaborating towards the green transition. And that's creativity. That's about the sustainable material use in a connected and circular economy. And that goes from the whole, from production, but reusing the material in a smart way and not just throwing it. Sun, it's about the extraction of natural resources, and that can be mining resources, that can be forestry, but also water is a very important natural resource. And precise, which is about precision medicine, and this is about individualized precision medicine. And in all of these 3 research areas, AI plays a big role. And we have some from our group, some specific outcomes already. For example, when it comes to processing of material in the processing chain, we have reached in our project 20% more efficiency. In some areas, we have, with some technology, I will tell you in a moment, we realized at least 1,000 times more energy efficiency and the workload reduction of knowledge workers in several areas. I was asked to speak about the European perspective of AI, but I guess all of you know that, right? We want to have trustworthy AI, that's what we're standing for. And of course, we want to reach the sustainability goals. So sustainable and trustworthy, that's kind of clear. If we want to have reliable AI, it has to be robust, and it has to be responsible, and which should not be biased. And there's another project I just want to highlight what we're working on at LTU, which is called, sorry, I see some people want to take pictures. Slides are available and you're happy to upload them on the conference website. No bias. It is for those journalists who want to create fake news or quickly news, at least get an idea, is this now more manly or male or female bias here in these words, and maybe replacing some of these words would help to make it more gender neutral. And of course, you can use this for other biases to mitigate those as well. And the last question I want to answer is, can we have sustainable machine learning? I've seen here HPC, EUHubs4Data speaking, and I was wondering, who of you knows, if you make a Google request or a ChatGPT request, where do you need or use more energy to get the answer? So who thinks when I do a Google request, it requires more energy? Please raise your hand. Who thinks, who thinks when I ask ChatGPT, it requires more? Okay, I see a majority of you actually know that, and it's a factor of more than 10, actually. It's almost 4 watt-hours, which we require when we ask ChatGPT a question. So please be careful the next time when you ask ChatGPT, will you marry me? It is the same as if you would go for 20 minutes on a bike on your exercising machine. So be careful. And it's the same as if you would download a YouTube video, a 2-minute video, maybe download. It's okay. So why do we need so much energy? Because we're using GPU a lot, and of course, quantum might be enhanced in the foreseeable future, which currently the development goes like that, and that's a logarithmic scale energy use, more or less. It's not exactly, it's a computing performance petaflops, and we have it exponential increase, and even faster than in the past for training our language models. Even for using them, because they're so big, we need a lot of energy. How can we how can we explain it first? If we, in our brain, want to get an answer, the Google, and we only need 20 watts of the whole time to process things in our brain. For biggest computers, we need about 21 million baht. And that's not even realizing brain power yet. We need to add another factor of 1,000 to get maybe in the area of brain computation. But we have 1 million or even 1 billion times more energy need when we want to process information. And an answer to that is neuromorphic computing. And I've seen it on one of your slides in one of these small hexagons, but most of the people didn't speak much about neuromorphic computing. Neuromorphic computing is that technology which is already there. It is already working, but it is not yet so much implemented in the bigger machine learning toolkits. It is up to 1,000 or even 10 or 20, 10 or 100,000 times more energy efficient than GPU processing for specific applications. I saw it in many European codes. We also submitted some of them, but that's really important to integrate in high performance computing. And that was my final message. And the Swedish perspective I just want to bring in, we have to ensure that AI will benefit us all. It has to be equal, but it has to be available for everyone. We have to not make available AI only for the rich or only for some societies, because that will create a bigger gap in the society. It has to be unbiased. And if we reach that and have reliable AI, which really creates what we tell it to do, at some point we can be happy about the dawn of AI. Thank you.
Thank you. That was inspirational. I haven't seen that one, but actually my parents had one, and he was really interesting because I had the idea that they were kind of brave, but every time when you get into the place where they were, he laid down and all the hands laid upon him. So he was really afraid of everything. So great, thank you, Marcus. And then we will continue with the next speaker, Harald. I don't know if you want to have the headset or if you want to have the mic. You want to have the mic, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Morning, everyone. I'm sorry we didn't have a phone call, so I don't have the right color.
Yes. Next time.
Okay. I was asked to tell you something about what Software-AG is doing in terms of data research, and I brought some. We can switch to the presentation with you, and I brought some of our projects, and but not just to name them, but also to show some questions and some commonalities between them. And I will start with several data spaces that we are building in various projects. For example, we are creating, together with a lot of partners, we are creating a data space for reducing the food waste. Because, you know, food waste does not just occur at the consumer, but 30% of food is wasted from the production to the retailer. And that's a lot. And having more reliable data, for example, on the actual production, on the actual consumption and during the food chain, that can reduce food waste. So here we have a bakery, a dairy, a butchery that are partners of the project, and all of them are small and medium enterprises, which is the typical case. I mean, such bakery has maybe 50, maybe 100 employees, if they are large enough to produce for the supermarkets. So, and of course, we have the wholesalers here and the retailers in this project. But none of them is in the data processing business. So, nevertheless, they need data space and they need technology. In this case, Software-AG is of course helping them, but we will see a similar pattern in the next data spaces that I present. So the next one would be, the next one would be EUHubs4Data, which is a German-Austrian project in the GAIA-X area. And here We are building a data space for a certain kind of manufacturing companies, again, along the value chain. And here, some produce parts that others use to build machines. And you know, when you produce a part, you have certain tolerances. And when you produce the part to fit it in, you have another tolerance. And if you can match these tolerances, I mean, you know, the one has 1 millimeter more, then you can match to the ideal fitting part that has a fitting tolerance on the other hand. So we create a data space where you have all the information on the part level, not on the type level, and they can do the matching. For example, that's one of the use cases in this project. And again, the partners are companies that are small and medium enterprises. They are market leaders in their area, but that's a typical pattern, at least in Germany, that the champions in the market are still small and medium enterprises, or well, maybe up to 500 employees, which is, I mean, not fitting the EU definition of a small and medium enterprise, but it's still not the large enterprise, right? Next example of a data space that we are building is given here in this case for the construction industry. So if you're building a large building, about 30 to 40% of the whole building time is wasted with waiting for something, waiting for one construction worker to finish. Yeah, waiting for someone to appear, waiting for whatever. Yeah, and that's a lot of time. Yeah, and that's also a factor that makes construction expensive, of course. Yeah? So knowing better about the dates, about the progress, and can also help optimizing construction work. Again, small and medium enterprises. Yeah, you know. The workers there, I mean, these companies typically have 50 or 60, 70 employees, yeah, and they are not in the data business. And again, next example, again, in the machining sector, yeah, again, the production sector, and well, there is this initiative Manufacturing X now, which is somehow, well, a predecessor to Manufacturing X is this project. Again, small and medium enterprises. And last example I want to give you today for the, okay. Another sector, automatic driving. So completely different sector, yeah. But nevertheless, you need a data space there as well. To connect these automated vehicles, of course, with other requirements for the database. Yeah, you have to, of course, this is very much real time, of course, but nevertheless, it's a data space. And some of the players are large and some are not. Now, if you look at these 5 examples that I gave, one might ask, what do they have in common technology-wise? Yeah, and of course, we all probably assume that Gaia-X is somehow giving a basis for these data spaces. On a very, I mean, Gaia-X has very specific functionalities that are covered, this federated catalog and federated trust on the hand, which are important, but are not fully sufficient to build a data space, of course. So there will certainly be some general data space tooling, building blocks, whatever, that could be derived. And the European Commission does something like that, is simple. Well, this picture assumes that simple is based on Gaia-X, which is not sure. Yeah? It's not guaranteed yet, because you know, the tendering process just has finished, and the winner is not yet announced, and whether the winner will, or how much the winner will include Gaia-X is not yet clear. So maybe it's going down here or here or whatever. Yeah. So simple is probably the answer to journal data space tools. At least it's intended to be. Whether it's really the case, we will see when it's done. But then you have seen we have several application areas, several domains. And we asked ourselves the question, is there a domain-specific part to data spaces that is not general? You've seen we have food, we have driving, we have construction, we have manufacturing. So maybe there's also another part that is specific to a domain, but it's not the general functionality. And then, of course, there is always, oops, was too fast. And then there's always a certain application specific for this specific database. So that's the technical commonalities that we are thinking about, of course. The other thing that we, of course, see, in particular with these small and medium enterprises that are not in the data processing business, they are not creating a database if they don't have trust in all the other partners. And if they don't have trust that their data is not going to the wrong person, to the wrong competitor, whatever. And that's something you cannot just solve technologically. Yeah? You have to somehow make sure that you have the right community to create this trust, which is, from our perspective, the hardest thing when it comes to data spaces. Yeah, and the European Commission cannot help in that. It's just you have to find the right consortia, the right trust areas, and you have to make the right guarantees for the data. Yeah, and we are not yet there. Yeah, as a society, at least in Europe, we are not yet there. Okay, next thing that we observed. We wanted, or the companies that we build the databases for, they wanted to be the databases, platforms to provide data, and in particular services on these data. So, for example, in the food industry, they don't really want the data, how much bread is produced on that day with the certain parameters, whatever. They wanted to have services that somehow abstract these data and make them usable, because they don't have the data processing expertise. Yeah? They don't have the data scientists. So they want to have services that rely on these data. So the idea was to have a platform that collects these data and provides services on these data. Unfortunately, this is not possible because the European Data Governance Act prohibits exactly that. If you are an intermediary, which is you collect the data, you are not allowed to provide value-added services on that. And that's well, an obstacle to these projects. Yeah, so we are now also doing some legal research together with legal partners, how we can make a business model out of that, because you have to have you have to have intermediaries that somehow create their funding themselves, yeah, by selling something. And that's something that really surprised us in these projects, because they were set up before the Data Governance Act came into place. So that's first area we are working in, data spaces. But we are also doing some data and AI real research, and that's that I will show in the next two slides. If you look at these circles, you don't have to read them, but if you see a large green area. Yeah? And the green area stands for cleaning and organizing data. This is time spent by data scientists. So you see 60% of the time is spent for data cleaning and preparation. And these, on that side, are the things that they love, that they don't love at all. Yeah, so the least enjoyable things they do, which is also data preparation. Yeah, so data preparation is an important but not very nice job in data science. And that's why we investigate how to automate that. And of course, it consists of various blocks. Yeah, you have to do data evaluation, you have to do error repairs, and we try to solve all that with the help of AI, taking into account historical artifacts, confirmation, and some other information. And that's what we are doing some research on. And just to have it included in the slides, I will give you some references later. We are doing that in the context of 2 projects that are also funded by German government. And here I give you some references. I show them for 3 seconds, so you can, if you want, can take a photo. Otherwise, they will be in the slides that are uploaded probably. And we also have applied for some patents in that area. And last but not least, we are also doing research in data for, you can't see it here, for environmental and life cycle assessment and improvement. An area that was mentioned today already is the batteries. And yes, you can recycle a lot of material from batteries. It's not yet, I mean, I think we are not yet at 95%. But before recycling the materials, it's better to investigate how you can reuse the battery components. Because if a battery is no longer feasible to use it in a car, for example, you might still use the components of the battery to build another battery that can be used for a certain application. What you need there is, of course, data about the life cycle of the battery. And that's what we are investigating here. So the project is about reusing parts of battery or reusing batteries by just decomposing them, not into the materials, but into components, and recombine the components in another way, of course, saving a lot of material there. And in another project, we do research on climate neutral circular economy with digital products carbon pass. That was already mentioned by Thomas. So if you want to get control about the scope 3 emissions, you have to do something that follows the whole life cycle of the product, not just what you do with scope 1 and 2, but also from the beginning, from the raw material to the end user, to the recycling in a recycling plant. Okay, that was a short overview of what we do. And of course, if you have further questions on that, just ask me. I'm around till tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.